There's something you're terrified of, something that makes your stomach drop when you think about it, something you've spent years avoiding, denying, or running from. Maybe it's confrontation, maybe it's vulnerability, maybe it's being seen, being powerful, being selfish, being alone, being insignificant, being too much or not being enough. Whatever it is, you've built your entire life around not facing it. You've made choices to avoid it. You've developed strategies to manage it. You've created elaborate defenses to protect yourself from ever having to encounter it directly. This fear has been your invisible prison guard, keeping you contained, keeping you small, keeping you safe. But Carl Jung discovered something that will shatter everything you believe about fear. The thing you're most afraid of is actually the doorway to your greatest gift. Your deepest terror is pointing directly at your highest potential. What you're running from is precisely what you need to run toward. Because locked inside, every fear is a power you've never claimed, a strength you've never owned, a gift you've never unwrapped. As Jung observed through decades of analyzing the human psyche, neurosis is the natural byproduct of pain avoidance. We don't develop psychological problems because we're weak or broken. We develop them because we're desperately trying to avoid experiencing something that terrifies us. And in that avoidance, we don't just escape the fear, we also lock away the power that lives on the other side of it. This is the fundamental misunderstanding most people have about fear. They think fear is a warning sign that says, "Danger ahead, turn back." They interpret their terror as evidence that they shouldn't go in that direction, that they should stay away, that they should protect themselves by avoidance. But Jung discovered that fear often means exactly the opposite. Treasure ahead. Proceed with courage. Here's how this paradox works. Everything you've disowned about yourself, every quality you've deemed unacceptable, every aspect you've pushed into shadow, every potential you've suppressed to fit in, creates fear when you get close to it. Not because it's actually dangerous, but because reclaiming it threatens your entire identity structure. It would require you to become someone different from who you think you are, and that transformation feels like death to the ego. Think about someone who's terrified of being selfish. They've built their entire identity around being generous, giving, selfless. They pride themselves on always putting others first. But this person is also exhausted, resentful, unable to receive, incapable of prioritizing their own needs. Why? Because they've pushed healthy self-interest into the shadow. They've deemed it unacceptable, dangerous, wrong. Their fear of selfishness isn't protecting them from becoming a bad person. It's protecting them from accessing the power of healthy boundaries, self-care, and self-advocacy. The gift hidden in their fear is the ability to say no, to prioritize themselves, to take up space without guilt. But as long as they're terrified of being selfish, they can never claim this gift. Their fear guards the very power they need to become whole. Or consider someone who's terrified of confrontation. They've spent their life avoiding conflict, keeping the peace, being agreeable. They've suppressed their anger, swallowed their truth, accommodated everyone else's needs. But this person also feels powerless, resentful, unable to stand up for themselves, constantly taken advantage of. Their fear of confrontation isn't keeping them safe. It's keeping them weak, because hidden in their terror of conflict is the gift of authentic self-assertion, of speaking truth, of standing firm in their boundaries. The power they need is locked inside the very fear they've been avoiding. And until they face that fear, they remain trapped in powerlessness. Jung understood that what we call fear is often actually the energy of transformation that we're resisting. When you get close to claiming a disowned part of yourself, when you approach an unlived potential, when you start to touch power you've never owned, your entire system alerts. Your body creates sensations that feel like fear. Your mind generates thoughts that feel like danger warnings. Your emotions flood with terror. But this isn't fear of external threat. It's fear of internal transformation. You're not afraid of the thing itself. You're afraid of who you'd have to become to embrace it. You're not scared of the power. You're terrified of the responsibility that comes with owning it. You're not running from danger. You're running from your own greatness. This is what Jung meant when he spoke about the shadow containing gold. The shadow isn't just darkness. It's unlived life, disowned potential, suppressed gifts. Every quality you've pushed into shadow because it was too much, too dangerous, too unacceptable, is actually a potential source of power and authenticity. But you can only access this power by facing the fear that guards it. Think about the person who's terrified of being vulnerable. They've armored themselves, built walls, developed a persona of strength and independence. They believe their fear is protecting them from being hurt, from being rejected, from being exposed as weak. But what they don't realize is that their terror of vulnerability is actually guarding a profound gift: the power of authentic connection, emotional intimacy, and genuine human relationship. The very thing they fear, opening their heart, showing their real feelings, allowing themselves to be truly seen, is the doorway to the love and connection they desperately want, but can never access through their armor. Their fear isn't protecting them, it's imprisoning them, and the gift they need is on the other side of the terror they refuse to face. Or consider someone who's afraid of their own power, their own bigness, their own potential for impact. They've spent their life playing small, dimming their light, making themselves less threatening. They tell themselves they're being humble, but really they're terrified. Terrified of the responsibility that comes with power. Terrified of the visibility. Terrified of the possibility of failing on a larger stage. But hidden in this fear of power is their actual life purpose, their authentic calling, their greatest potential contribution to the world. The terror they feel when they imagine stepping fully into their power isn't a warning to stay small. It's the energy of transformation they're resisting. And until they face this fear, they remain trapped in a life that's far smaller than what their soul is capable of creating. Jung also discovered that we often fear most intensely the qualities that are actually our greatest strengths. The person terrified of anger might have tremendous capacity for righteous assertion and boundary setting. The person afraid of neediness might have profound capacity for vulnerability and emotional intimacy. The person scared of their own intelligence might have gifts of insight and wisdom that could transform lives. We push our strengths into shadow not because they're weak, but because they're powerful. And power is dangerous to an ego that's built its identity on being acceptable, on fitting in, on not making waves. So we develop fears around our greatest gifts as a way of keeping ourselves contained, manageable, safe. This is why Jung emphasized that the work of individuation, becoming who you truly are, requires facing your fears rather than avoiding them. Not because facing fear builds character or makes you brave, but because your fears are literally pointing you toward the parts of yourself you need to reclaim, to become whole. Working with the shadow can liberate us from the grip of our fears, Jung taught. When you stop running from what terrifies you and instead turn toward it with curiosity and courage, when you ask what gift is hidden in this fear, rather than how can I avoid this feeling, everything shifts. The fear doesn't necessarily disappear, but its meaning transforms. Instead of being a stop sign, it becomes a treasure map. Instead of being your enemy, it becomes your guide. Instead of being evidence of weakness, it becomes proof that you're approaching power. But facing your fears from a Jungian perspective doesn't mean forcing yourself to do terrifying things or pushing through resistance with willpower. It means becoming conscious of what you're actually afraid of and recognizing the gift that fear is protecting. It means understanding that the terror you feel isn't usually about the thing itself. It's about the identity transformation that claiming that thing would require. When the person terrified of selfishness begins to recognize that healthy self-interest isn't actually selfish, When they understand that the fear has been guarding the gift of self-care and boundaries, they can begin to integrate this quality consciously. They don't have to become a selfish monster to claim this power. They just have to expand their identity to include healthy self-advocacy alongside their generosity. When the person afraid of confrontation realizes that authentic self-assertion isn't the same as being cruel or aggressive, when they see that the fear has been protecting them from owning their voice and their truth, they can begin to reclaim this power. They don't have to become combative to face this fear. They just have to allow themselves to speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable. This is the alchemy that Jung spoke about, transforming the lead of fear into the gold of power. But the transformation requires consciousness. You have to be willing to look at what you're really afraid of, to recognize the gift that fear is guarding, and to consciously choose to reclaim what you've disowned. Most people never do this work because facing fear is uncomfortable, and our entire culture is organized around avoiding discomfort. We're taught to stay in our comfort zones, to play it safe, to protect ourselves from risk. But Jung understood that this path of avoidance doesn't lead to safety. It leads to neurosis, to a life half-lived, to dying without ever having truly been born. Jung observed that when neurosis develops, we invariably have to deal with a considerably intensified shadow. The more we avoid our fears, the more we push into shadow, the more psychological suffering we experience. Not as punishment, but as our psyche's way of saying, you need to face this, you need to reclaim what you've disowned, you need to integrate what you've split off. The path to wholeness, the path to authentic power, the path to a life fully lived, it all runs directly through your fears. Not around them, not over them, through them. Because on the other side of every fear is a gift you desperately need but have been too terrified to unwrap. So look at your deepest fear right now, not with judgment, not with shame, but with curiosity. What quality might be hidden in that fear? What power might you be avoiding? What gift might your terror be protecting? What aspect of yourself have you disowned that's trying to come back into consciousness? Your fear of being vulnerable might be guarding your capacity for intimacy. Your terror of being powerful might be protecting your ability to make real impact. Your dread of being selfish might be hiding your gift of self-advocacy. Your panic about being seen might be concealing your authentic brilliance. Whatever it is, understand this. The fear isn't there to stop you. It's there to show you where your greatest growth lies. It's there to point you toward the power you've never claimed. It's there to guide you to the gift you've never unwrapped. Your biggest fear is actually your greatest gift, patiently waiting for you to have the courage to claim it. If you've recognized your own fear in this exploration, if you've glimpsed the gift that might be hidden in your terror, if you're ready to stop running and start reclaiming your power, then write in the comments, I claim the gift in my fear, and commit to facing what you've been avoiding. Share this with someone who's letting fear keep them small. Your greatest power is on the other side of your deepest fear. Will you finally have the courage to claim it?